Autistic Learners in the Computer Science Classroom, a review of the literature by Alexandria Solly Bailey, presented as part of the final project for the University of Florida's Intro to Issues and Trends in Computer Science Education, Fall 2022. Approximately 1 in 44 children born in 2010 in the United States of America are diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, ASD, according to the Centers for Disease Control. This is a significant increase from the 1 in 150 statistic reported for children born in 1992. Just as the number of autistic people increase, so does the use of computers in daily life. Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, or STEM, education has become a high priority with the United States Department of Education and is increasingly evaluated in standardized testing. In the United States of America, diagnoses of autism are currently based on the criteria provided by the American Psychiatric Association's Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, 5th edition, or DSM-5. To be diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder based on the DSM-5, a person must exhibit persistent deficits in social communication and social interactions, and at least 2 of 4 listed restrictive repetitive behaviors. It is noteworthy that symptoms of ASD are not based on the experience of the person diagnosed, but rather how the allistic person perceives the autistic person. A note: there are 2 major schools of thought when it comes to the language surrounding autistic people: person-first or identity-first language. Person-first language refers to people with autism to emphasize the humanity of an individual with a medical condition. Identity-first language refers to autistic people, or autistics, with the view that autism is an essential part of one's being. As a neurodivergent person, the author rejects the notion that there is anything deficient in non-observance of social courtesies. For the purposes of this presentation, people who have received a diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder will be referred to as autistic people, and those who have not been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder will be referred to as allistic people. To identify relevant information, searches were conducted with Google Scholar, Sage Journals, and UF Libraries for various combinations of terms related to computer science, education, and autism. The guiding frameworks for this literature review are Universal Design for Learning and Critical Pedagogy. Universal Design for Learning, or UDL, is intended to increase accessibility to learning by providing options to all learners through multiple means of engagement with the topic, representation of information, and action and expression in learning. Critical Pedagogy rejects the banking concept of education, which views students as empty vessels in which a teacher can deposit immutable knowledge that reinforces existing power structures. It advocates education as the practice of freedom, and that a dialogue of exploration and discovery between educators and learners is necessary for human and social improvement. One of the first questions one must ask when trying to understand autistic learning is, what is learning? As of now, there are multiple theories that have evolved over the decades, from behaviorism's fascination with responses to external stimuli to the social constructivist interest in the semiotics of a subject. Learning, knowledge, and understanding are complex mental processes that defy simple explanations. It is worth noting that while these theories of learning offer valuable insight into the development of the current education system, the dominance of these ideas may be fading as the 21st century progresses. These theories were developed by presumably allistic white men living in a pre-digital era when women, non-white people, and disabled people were denied full personhood, deemed incapable of learning, or viewed as unworthy of interest. As education expands to previously underserved groups, understanding of cognition and learning will also expand. Unfortunately, there is not much study on the autistic learning experience, especially in the computer science classroom. One 2020 study investigated the use of Collaborative Discussion Framework, or CDF, in aiding autistic learners in an elementary computer science classroom. In these classes, all students were taught a script intended to help learners when they were having trouble completing a task. The script was engaged with only superficially, if at all, by the 3 autistic students studied and did not prove beneficial. In another study, 3 autistic high school students with comorbid diagnoses were able to generalize from explicit instruction and program a robot using block-based coding in ways they had not been taught. They also reported a great deal of enjoyment and satisfaction with their learning experience. An Egyptian study attempted to teach programmatic sequencing via a video game that mimicked daily activities. While the students reported enjoyment and progressed to the final level, it is unclear if this translated into understanding sequential programming steps. To examine the role of game design in teaching computer science to autistic students, one study involved 7 autistic males aged 11 through 15 who had an established interest in video games. Over the course of 5 3-hour sessions teaching block-based game design, a group of 7 autistic students produced far more advanced programming structures as compared to pre-study testing, even going so far as to add features to their creations that had not been requested. In a case study of a 10-year-old autistic male with mild intellectual disability, the student participated in 18 computer science learning sessions averaging 40 to 50 minutes in length. The student began with needing significant scaffolding and developed into working through multiple independent sessions. He also demonstrated improvement in self-management skills where he identified his own mistakes and corrected them, sought and used other digital tools to achieve a goal, and increased verbal communication with the teacher. A case study of 2 students in first-year college English also provides some interesting insight. Both students enrolled in the relevant class during their last year of high school or immediately after high school graduation. Despite long histories of advanced writing, the students struggled with the rigidity of the assignments and the narrow focus of the topics they were required to write about, but in which they had no interest. A noticeable trend when reading these papers is that all autistic students engaged and learned happily when they had an interest in the topic. Autistic students have a lower tolerance for boredom than allistic students. This makes sense, as autism is defined as a social deficit and people are socialized to persevere in the classroom, even if the topic does not interest the learner. Social hierarchy is not relevant to the autistic person. Rather, teachers need to create a classroom experience that appeals to the widest swath of learners. Collaboration between student and teacher in what both needs creates an environment of trust and learning. Of the 20 autistic people discussed, only 3 were female. This follows the well-known trend of autism being diagnosed far more frequently in males. The reasons for this are not well understood. While the socioeconomic, racial, and gender issues surrounding autism diagnosis, and even the ability to participate in a case study, are far beyond the scope of this review, it is important to note as potential limitations. Autistic researchers need to be involved in future research. Who understands the challenges of being an autistic student better than an autistic person? It is also worth studying how autistic students are impacted when methods for teaching autistic students are used in the wider classroom. Autistic students learn best in an environment that allows flexibility and acknowledges the unique contributions autistic people make.